Emily Turner was the kind of girl whose heart always yearned for something beyond the borders of the small, quiet town of Silver Creek, Texas. Nestled between vast fields and isolated farms, Silver Creek was peaceful, but to Emily, it felt like a prison. At 22, having just graduated from college with a degree in communications, Emily was eager to start her life, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She loved her grandparents, the kind, soft-spoken couple who had raised her after her parents' tragic car accident when she was just a toddler, but she longed for the world beyond their homestead. With dreams of seeing the world, of discovering herself and maybe even making a name for herself, Emily began spending more time online. She joined various social media platforms, shared her passion for photography, and curated a life that seemed bigger than Silver Creek could offer. And slowly, over time, she began to gain attention. Her follower count grew. Her pictures, especially those of sunrises, vibrant cityscapes, and candid shots of people, earned her admiration from across the globe. Among her new followers, there was a group of young people from Los Angeles who seemed to be living the very life she wanted: adventure, freedom, and the fast-paced allure of city living. The group, which called themselves the City Rebels, was made up of a mix of influencers, aspiring musicians, and free-spirited artists. They were young, vibrant, and full of energy, everything Emily dreamed of. They began messaging her, complimenting her photos, and even reaching out privately. It didn't take long for Emily to form a bond with them, especially with one of the group's leaders, Jordan, a charismatic, smooth-talking musician who promised her a life filled with opportunities. The attention was intoxicating. Jordan was charming, and soon Emily was convinced that moving to Los Angeles would open doors for her. He made it sound so easy, a world of endless possibility, far removed from the small town she had always known. But there was one catch: Emily needed to come. The group was planning a project in LA that would require a few key players, and they needed someone with her kind of authentic charm to join them. Jordan promised her it would be her ticket to a fresh start. Over weeks of messaging, Emily felt herself drawn to them more and more. She began making plans. The excitement of starting anew consumed her, until she made the decision: she would leave Silver Creek behind. When Emily announced to her grandparents that she was leaving for Los Angeles, they were heartbroken but supportive. Her grandfather, a stoic man who had lived a life of hard work and quiet contentment, warned her gently, "The world out there isn't always kind, Emily. Not everyone you meet will be as they seem." But Emily, filled with youthful optimism and the hope of new beginnings, brushed off his concerns. "I'll be fine, Grandpa. I'm ready." She packed her things, said her tearful goodbyes, and boarded a plane to LA, her heart racing with anticipation. Her grandparents' fading voices in her mind felt like whispers in the distance as the plane took off, leaving everything familiar behind. When Emily arrived in Los Angeles, it was nothing like she imagined. The city was beautiful in its own chaotic way, but the freedom she had anticipated felt distant. Jordan and his friends greeted her with excitement, showing her around, introducing her to their world of endless nights, parties, and reckless decisions. The group's charisma kept her entranced at first, and Emily threw herself into the experience with a sense of abandon. But soon, the allure of the city faded, replaced by the cracks in the group's facade. The City Rebels weren't the carefree artists they had appeared to be. They were struggling with their own issues, using one another to cover their weaknesses. Jordan, for all his charm, was unpredictable and volatile. Tensions started to build. Emily, once the starry-eyed girl from Texas, began feeling isolated, unsure of who she could trust. Then, things took a darker turn. Emily was introduced to others in the group, people who seemed to have less than honorable intentions. They began pressuring her into risky behavior, involving her in things she never would have considered back in Silver Creek. One evening, at a secluded party, Emily realized the truth. She wasn't just another face in a crowd of artists. She was becoming part of something she didn't fully understand, and it was starting to scare her. The night of Emily's death began like any other, with a late-night party in one of their rented houses. Emily, feeling the weight of the past few weeks and the isolation creeping in, decided to step outside for some fresh air. That's when Jordan came to her, his eyes full of the charm she once adored. But there was something different in them now. Darker, more possessive. "I've got an offer for you," he said, his voice low, coaxing. "You can be part of something big. Just trust me." What she didn't know was that the offer wasn't an opportunity. It was a trap. As the night wore on, Emily grew more uncomfortable. She excused herself and went upstairs to her room. But the door wouldn't stay closed. The people she had once trusted, the friends she had come to rely on, had other plans. They pushed her into a situation she couldn't escape from. The details of what happened that night remain shrouded in mystery. But one thing is clear: Emily was brutally murdered in that house, and her body was left in a room, discarded like an unwanted possession. The group, now panicking, scrambled to cover their tracks. They told conflicting stories, and investigators quickly realized they were dealing with a web of lies. The group's stories never lined up, and the alibis were all too convenient. For weeks, police combed through the case, but no one was willing to speak the truth. It wasn't until a local detective, with a hunch, discovered the weapon hidden in a nearby alley, a simple, blood-stained kitchen knife. But the discovery of the weapon wasn't the only twist. It wasn't one person who killed Emily. It was all of them. The weapon was linked to the kitchen of the house where the party had been held. But it was Jordan, the one who had promised her everything, who had planned her death. The group had grown increasingly frustrated with Emily's indecision, her refusal to fully commit to their dangerous lifestyle. They needed to silence her, to keep her from escaping. The murder was a collective decision, a dark, twisted plot, each member playing a role, from the one who held her down to the one who finally delivered the fatal blow. In the end, it was Jordan who was arrested, but not before the world learned the ugly truth. Emily's death had been a sacrifice to their greed, their ambition, and their addiction to control. The case shocked the nation. A young girl from a quiet town, lured to the city by false promises, murdered by the very people she thought were her friends. Emily Turner's tragic story became a chilling reminder of how the world can devour the innocent when they are too eager to chase their dreams without understanding the risks. The city rebels were never the free spirits they claimed to be. They were broken individuals who used one another for their own gain. And Emily, in her quest for adventure, for belonging, had become a pawn in their game. Her grandparents, devastated by the loss, never understood how it all went so wrong. They held on to the hope that the young girl who had once walked with so much hope and light would be remembered for more than just her tragic end. And in the hearts of those who loved her, Emily Turner remains more than a cautionary tale. She was a soul who sought truth, who sought to be seen, but whose light was snuffed out by the darkness of the world she had so eagerly joined. Who was the real killer? Was it Jordan, the mastermind behind the plot? Or was it the group of so-called friends who allowed it to happen, who stood by while Emily's life was taken from her? In the end, it doesn't matter. They were all complicit. And Emily was just a girl who wanted to see the world.